She was selling fruit soaked by the rain when a stranger knelt before her with an absurd proposal. Pretend to be his girlfriend for 5 minutes. She only accepted for the money. But what he did in front of 100 people from the elite changed everything. And what came next she could never have imagined. If this story touches you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you listening to this message from? Your support is what keeps this channel alive and inspires us to keep going. The rain fell like it hadn't in weeks, soaking the sidewalks of Brookhill in a cold, stubborn curtain of silver. The sky was a restless grey, and puddles rippled with the hurried steps of strangers under umbrellas. In the middle of the local farmers' market, quiet now except for a few loyal vendors, Maya Thompson stood behind her fruit stall, her hoodie already damp and her hands wrapped around a chipped thermos of hot tea. She was used to mornings like this. Rainy, slow, quiet. But that day, something broke the rhythm of her routine. A man. Running. He stumbled into the market like he was being chased by ghosts. His tailored dress pants were drenched, shoes ruined by the muddy water, and his coat flapped wildly behind him. He looked completely out of place, like a Wall Street executive who had lost his way in a small town's heartbeat. Maya's first instinct was to step back. He was heading straight for her stand. He stopped abruptly, panting, his chest rising and falling as if he hadn't stopped running for miles. His eyes, steel blue and wide, locked on hers with a desperate urgency that pierced straight through her. "I need 5 minutes," he said, out of breath. "Please, just 5 minutes. Pretend to be my girlfriend." Maya blinked, frozen. "What?" He took a shaky step forward, his hand raised like someone pleading for a miracle. "I'll pay. $500, cash. Just pretend you're with me. Please." She stared at him like he was unwell. "Sir, are you okay? Are you running from something?" "Not something," he said, glancing behind him toward the corner of the street where a sleek black car had just pulled up. "Someone. My family." Maya narrowed her eyes, not sure whether to laugh or run. "I'm Logan," he added quickly. "Logan Carter." That name didn't mean much to her until he pulled out his wallet with shaky fingers and flashed an ID and 5 crisp $100 bills. Her eyes flickered. She could recognize power when she saw it. His hands, though trembling, were clean and manicured. His cufflinks were engraved. The leather of his wallet alone could pay her rent. She didn't need a fake boyfriend. She needed rent money, a new refrigerator, a way to help her sister finish medical school. She bit her lip, staring at the money. "This is insane." "I know," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "but I don't have anyone else, and I can't walk in there alone." "There, where?" He nodded toward the black car. "A dinner, family, investors, my ex, long story. I just need 5 minutes to survive this." Maya looked down at herself. Jeans, hoodie, work boots. She smelled faintly of peaches and soap. No makeup, no jewelry. "I'm not exactly your type." His lips curved slightly. "You're perfect." Her stomach twisted. She didn't know why that word hit her like that. Maybe because no one had ever said it to her without a hidden agenda. Maybe because the rain made everything sound more intimate, like a confession whispered in the dark. She reached for the bills with slow fingers. 5 minutes, she said. "Then I go back to my stand. Deal." He took off his coat and wrapped it over her shoulders before she could protest. It smelled of expensive cologne and rain. The moment she stepped into the car beside him, the driver raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Maya asked softly. "No," Logan said, "but you're already the best decision I've made today." The car rolled forward and Maya's pulse thundered in her ears. 5 minutes. That was the deal. Pretend to care. Pretend to belong. Pretend to be loved by a man she'd just met in the rain. Easy, right? They arrived at a grand estate that looked like it belonged in a movie, the kind of place where champagne didn't come in glasses, it came in fountains. Maya's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't a dinner. It was an event. Valets in black suits, music spilling from tall, glowing windows, dozens, no hundreds, of well-dressed guests already mingling on the wide marble steps. "This is not what you said," Maya hissed. "I panicked," Logan admitted. "It's my family's annual investor dinner. But it's not just dinner, it's everything." Her eyes narrowed. So I'm not just your girlfriend. I'm your what? He hesitated. I may have introduced you as my fiancé. Her mouth dropped open. You what? Before she could bolt, the front doors opened wide and a tall woman in a navy evening gown strode out. Elegant, poised, ice in her stare, she walked with purpose and venom. Here we go, Logan muttered. Maya clenched her fists. Who's that? Sabrina, he said, almost wincing. My ex. Perfect, Maya muttered. Sabrina approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her gaze swept over Maya like she was sizing up a cheap knockoff purse. You must be the fiancé, she said slowly, as if the word tasted bitter. Maya didn't flinch. She raised her chin and extended her hand. Maya Thompson, nice to meet you. Sabrina ignored the handshake. Funny, Logan never mentioned you before. Maybe he wanted to keep me all to himself, Maya said sweetly. Logan choked on a laugh. The tension crackled like static between the three of them. Maya knew she didn't belong here. She didn't wear diamonds. She didn't speak French. She didn't know which fork went where, but she knew how to hold her own, especially when people tried to make her feel small. Come, Logan said, guiding her inside with a protective hand on her back. His palm was warm, grounding. As they walked past glittering chandeliers and rooms full of wealth she couldn't even name, Maya tried to remember, it's just 5 minutes. She was here for money, not fairy tales. But then in the middle of a golden room filled with the most powerful people in the city, someone took a microphone, and Logan's father stepped forward. The music stopped. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Carter's voice echoed. Before we begin tonight's dinner, I'd like to raise a glass to my son and his beautiful fiancée, Maya Thompson. Every head turned toward her. Maya froze. Logan did too. Charles lifted a glass of champagne with a proud smile. To their future. And just like that, 5 minutes turned into something much, much more. The room was too bright. Maya squinted under the crystal chandelier, her eyes darting from face to face as glasses were raised in her direction. Every head had turned. Every eye seemed to trace her from hair to shoes, pausing at her soaked hoodie and Logan's oversized coat draped over her shoulders. The applause that followed Charles Carter's toast was polite, but distant, polished, like everything else in that place. Maya forced a smile, the kind she wore at the market when a customer asked for perfect apples at half the price. She leaned slightly into Logan's arm, feeling the tension in his body, tight, restrained. You said 5 minutes, she whispered, lips barely moving. I didn't know he'd do that, Logan murmured back, eyes still on his father. They were soon led to a long dining table, glistening with silverware and white roses. A waiter in black and white pulled out Maya's chair, but she hesitated before sitting. The cushion was velvet, too soft, too clean. She felt like she was smuggling dirt into another world. Across from her, Sabrina sat like a queen on a throne of silk. Her gown shimmered like oil in candlelight, her red lips curled in amusement. Maya didn't look away. Charles Carter, with a voice that could command entire boardrooms, resumed his speech. He spoke of legacy, responsibility, and the future of the Carter Empire. But every so often he glanced at Maya, with curiosity, with calculation. Beside him, Lorraine Carter, the matriarch, was more difficult to read. Impeccable posture, tasteful pearl necklace and eyes that didn't blink much. But when she finally addressed Maya, it wasn't with arrogance. It was with something almost human. So, Maya, Lorraine said with a small, refined smile, Logan tells us you work in the local market? Maya nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am, I sell fruit, locally sourced. My sister and I run the stand. And you enjoy it? There was a pause, a soft breath. Then Maya straightened in her chair. Very much. I like working with my hands. I like knowing where our food comes from, and I like seeing people's faces light up when something reminds them of home. Lorraine tilted her head, intrigued. That's rare these days. Sabrina snorted faintly. She means charming, she said under her breath, loud enough for the table to hear. Maya didn't take the bait. Instead, she smiled softly. Maybe we need more charm in the world. Logan's lips twitched beside her. He reached under the table and gently tapped her fingers, a small gesture of support unnoticed by the others, but it sent a quiet warmth up her arm. Charles leaned forward. "And your sister? Logan mentioned she's in school." "Yes, sir," Maya replied. "Medical school. She's brilliant. It's been a lot supporting her, but she's worth every shift, every early morning." There was a long silence, the kind that stretches and folds around a room. Then Charles said something unexpected. "You remind me of someone I used to know, a long time ago." Lorraine glanced at him, surprised. Logan looked over, puzzled. "Who?" But Charles didn't answer. Instead, he raised his glass again and turned the conversation to business matters, to market trends and real estate forecasts. Maya listened silently, absorbing names and numbers that felt like another language. Yet every now and then someone addressed her, and she never hesitated to speak with honesty, even when she wasn't sure of the rules. As dinner progressed, Maya noticed the way Logan watched her, not performative, not out of obligation, but with something deeper, like she was saying things he hadn't heard before or perhaps had forgotten he needed to hear. Between bites of duck confit and sips of overpriced wine, Maya stole glances at him too, the line of his jaw when he clenched it during awkward moments, the way his eyes softened when she laughed at something small, the way he leaned toward her without realizing it. He wasn't just playing anymore, and neither was she. The tipping point came with dessert. Just as the waiters placed delicate plates of lemon mousse in front of the guests, Sabrina's voice rose above the chatter. "I have to say," she began sweetly, "it's refreshing to see Logan with someone so grounded. Most girls just want a penthouse and a Birkin bag." Maya raised an eyebrow. "I don't even know what that is." "A Birkin," Sabrina said, wide-eyed. "You know, the bag? Hermes? $10,000? Maya shrugged. "Sounds heavy." The table chuckled, some awkwardly, some genuinely. Sabrina wasn't amused. She leaned in slightly. "So tell us, Maya, how exactly did you and Logan meet?" Before Maya could open her mouth, Logan jumped in. "She was picking out peaches," he said quickly. "And She sold them," Maya interrupted with a smile. "He didn't even know how to check if they were ripe." The table laughed again, but Logan's gaze lingered on Maya, grateful. Sabrina was still smiling, but her eyes narrowed. Something inside Maya tensed. That woman wasn't done. She was just getting started. Later that night, as the crowd shifted toward the cocktail lounge and jazz filled the room, Maya found herself momentarily alone in a hallway lined with family portraits. She was staring at a black and white photo of a young Charles and Lorraine when a voice sliced through the quiet. "You're not going to last." Maya turned slowly. Sabrina stood a few feet away, her arms crossed, her smile venomous. "This world," Sabrina continued, stepping closer, "will eat you alive. You think just because you made them laugh tonight you belong? Please." Maya didn't move. "Is that what you told the last girl he brought here?" "He never brought anyone here," Sabrina said coldly. "Only me. Until now." "Then maybe it's time for something new." Sabrina's eyes darkened. "You're just a temporary game, a fruit stand fantasy, and soon enough he'll remember who he really is." "And who's that?" Maya asked calmly. Sabrina hesitated. "A Carter." Maya tilted her head. "Then he better figure that out himself, because I'm not playing anything." She turned and walked away, leaving Sabrina in the hallway's golden silence. But the moment Maya stepped outside into the night air, her heart thundered. She was in deep, deeper than she'd meant to fall, and the worst part? She wasn't sure she wanted to climb back out. Maya had never walked through a house where the silence had weight. The Carter estate wasn't just large, it was curated. Every detail, from the candle arrangements to the subtle piano music echoing through the halls, whispered of power passed down through generations. She stood at the edge of a sitting room bathed in gold light, where conversations were held in undertones and laughter was rehearsed like theater, and yet somehow she was still there, still wearing Logan's coat over her hoodie, still feeling the crisp $500 in her pocket as proof that none of this was real. Charles Carter sat near the fireplace, his posture regal, a scotch in his hand untouched. Lorraine, equally poised, adjusted a crystal vase with the precision of someone who had never let a flower droop in public. Their expressions were unreadable, neither cold nor warm, just observant. "Would you like some tea, Maya?" Lorraine asked, her tone gentle but precise. "Yes, please," Maya said. Her voice was steady, but her palms were damp. She took the porcelain cup with both hands, afraid of dropping it, sipping slowly even as the heat burned her tongue. It tasted like flowers and formality. She swallowed anyway. "Logan mentioned your sister is in medical school," Charles said, cutting to the heart of things. Maya met his gaze. His voice carried weight, the kind that could either crush or carry. "She is," Maya nodded. "Her name's Lena. She just started her 3rd year. Pediatrics is her dream. You must be proud." "I am," Maya replied. "I raised her after our parents passed. She's everything I worked for." Charles's fingers tapped the side of his glass, an absent gesture. "That's a lot of responsibility, especially for someone your age." Maya held his stare. "It's life. You don't wait for the perfect time. You just do what needs to be done." Lorraine looked up from her tea. For a moment, something soft flickered behind her composed expression. "You run the fruit stall on Brookhill Avenue, don't you?" she asked. Maya smiled. "Yes, my parents started it. After they passed, I kept it going. We sell mostly local produce, seasonal, no preservatives, everything as natural as we can get it." Charles raised an eyebrow. "You're the one with the handmade signs?" "That's me," Maya nodded, a little shy now. "I make them every Sunday. Bad handwriting and all." A quiet chuckle escaped Lorraine's lips, surprising even herself. Logan, sitting nearby, watched the exchange with a strange blend of awe and affection. He hadn't prepared for this. He hadn't prepared for Maya. What had started as panic under the rain had turned into a hurricane of consequences he no longer wanted to escape from. And now, watching her speak so plainly, so confidently, he realized something else. She wasn't performing. She wasn't trying to impress them. She was simply being herself, and that, in this house of polished masks, was revolutionary. Lorraine leaned forward slightly. "Maya, I must say, it's refreshing, the way you speak. So few people in our circles remember what authenticity sounds like." Maya smiled, a bit caught off guard. "I don't know how to be anything else." "Don't learn," Lorraine said, almost too quickly. Then she looked away as if embarrassed by her own candor. Charles took a long sip of his scotch. "And what do you want for your future?" Maya hesitated. Not because she didn't have an answer, but because no one ever really asked. "I want Lena to finish med school without debt," she said. "I want to grow our business, maybe turn it into a co-op with other women from the neighborhood. And someday, I'd like a life that doesn't feel like I'm always catching my breath." There was a silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind that made people lean in. "You said you raised your sister," Lorraine said softly. "How old were you?" 17, Maya answered. "She was 10. Logan's jaw tightened slightly. He hadn't heard that before. Charles set down his glass. "You must have grown up fast." "I didn't have a choice," Maya said without bitterness. "But I had love, and that makes things lighter." Lorraine's gaze softened. For the first time that night, she smiled without restraint. "I can see why Logan brought you," she said gently. Maya blinked. She wasn't sure how to respond to that. But Logan did. "She's not just someone I brought," he said. "She's someone who walked in on her own feet." Maya turned her head toward him. Their eyes met. The room seemed to fade. There was something unsaid between them now. A current neither of them had intended, yet both felt. "I'm sorry to interrupt." Sabrina's voice suddenly pierced the moment. She stood at the edge of the doorway, her smile too wide, too white. "There's someone asking for Logan. An old client," she added, with just enough suggestion. Logan hesitated, but Charles waved him off. "Go handle it, son. We'll keep Maya company." As Logan disappeared into the corridor, Maya felt the air shift again. Lighter, yet strangely vulnerable. Lorraine turned to her. "Would you like to see the garden?" Maya nodded, grateful for a breath of fresh air. They walked side by side through a corridor of glass walls until they stepped into a private greenhouse behind the house. Roses of every color bloomed in perfect order. A small fountain whispered beneath the vines. "My mother taught me to garden here," Lorraine said, touching a red petal. "She believed soil has memory." Maya touched the edge of a petunia. "I think it does too. When I plant things, I always wonder what the earth remembers." "You're not what I expected," Lorraine said quietly. Maya looked at her, unsure if that was good or bad. But then Lorraine added, "And that's not a complaint." Back inside, Charles watched from the window, arms folded, eyes unreadable. Sabrina returned to his side. "She doesn't belong here," she murmured. Charles didn't look at her. "Neither did I, once." Sabrina's jaw tensed. "You're seriously entertaining this?" Charles finally turned to her. "I'm observing, Sabrina, something you might try." Outside, Maya laughed softly as Lorraine showed her how to pinch a rose stem without bruising it. Logan stood by the door watching them from a distance, a slow realization blooming in his chest. He'd brought Maya into this world thinking he needed a cover, but maybe she was what had been missing from it all along. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like pretending. The gala shifted as the evening deepened, voices rising in laughter, glasses refilled, music swelling into elegant crescendos. But for Maya, the room felt tighter, the air heavier. Something was coming. She could feel it in the way Sabrina moved, always nearby, always watching, like a storm circling a coastline waiting to crash. Logan had stepped away for a moment, called into a conversation by his cousin, a board member with too much whiskey and too many opinions. Maya stood near the grand staircase, sipping from a glass of water, her eyes scanning for him. But Sabrina got there first. "Having fun?" Sabrina asked, her voice sugar-coated and sharp at the edges. Maya turned slowly, her posture calm but guarded. "I am, thank you." Sabrina's lips curled slightly, as if Maya's calmness offended her. "It's quite the step up from your usual fruit stand, isn't it?" There it was, the first crack of thunder. Maya didn't flinch. "It's different, yes. But I've learned not to confuse wealth with value." Sabrina's smile wavered. "Smart. But in this world, image is everything." Maya looked around the room, then back at Sabrina. "Then it's a shame so many look beautiful and feel empty." Sabrina's jaw twitched. "Let's not pretend, Maya," she said, dropping the sweetness. "You don't belong here. This isn't some charity fair in your neighborhood. These are power brokers, politicians, families who've been building legacies since before you were born." Maya held her ground. "And I'm not trying to be one of them. I'm just here because I was invited. By Logan," Sabrina snapped. "Because he panicked. Because he wanted to hurt me." Maya blinked. "This has nothing to do with you." Sabrina stepped closer. Too close. Her perfume was expensive, cold. "Oh, it has everything to do with me. You're just a placeholder, a performance. He'll realize that soon. I think he's smart enough to decide that on his own." Sabrina tilted her head, studying her. "You think you're brave. You're not. You're naive. And when this little game ends, you'll go back to selling apples and Logan will go back to women who know which wine to pair with sea bass." Maya didn't respond, not with words. She met Sabrina's eyes and didn't blink. That was answer enough. But before Sabrina could retort, a deep voice interrupted, firm, commanding. "Is there a problem here?" Charles Carter. He stood a few steps away, posture straight, his eyes scanning the two women. Sabrina turned quickly. "No problem at all. Just girl talk." "Is that what you call it?" he asked, voice low. "Because it sounded more like condescension." Her cheeks flushed. "Charles, Miss Thompson is my guest," he said. "And more importantly, she's Logan's guest. I expect you to treat her with respect." Sabrina opened her mouth, closed it, then offered a smile so fake it nearly cracked her face. "Of course." Charles turned to Maya. "Will you join me and Lorraine for a moment?" Maya nodded, walking with him toward the back lounge, her pulse still steady, her expression unreadable, but inside her chest throbbed, not with fear, with adrenaline, with defiance, with something that felt dangerously close to pride. Later that night, after the guests began to thin and the orchestra softened into background hum, Logan found her standing alone on the veranda, looking out over the garden. The moonlight spilled over her like silk. He walked up beside her, silent at first. She got to you, didn't she? Maya didn't look at him. She tried. He exhaled. I'm sorry. She's relentless and bitter. She's not the problem, Logan. He turned toward her. Then what is? She finally looked at him. You told them I was your fiancé. He hesitated. I didn't plan that. I know, but you didn't stop it either. A long silence stretched between them. The garden lights flickered in the distance. I didn't stop it, he admitted, because for a moment I wanted it to be true. Maya's breath caught. Her fingers curled tightly around the edge of the railing. This started as a lie, she whispered. I know, but now people believe it. They're talking about me like I belong here, like I'm yours. Logan's voice lowered. What if I wanted you to be? Maya turned toward him fully. Don't say that. Why not? Because this is still pretend. No, he said firmly. It's not. Not for me. She stepped back, overwhelmed. Logan, I don't belong in this world. I'm just a girl trying to survive. You live in a different universe. And yet, he interrupted, you walk through it like you were born here. Maya, did you see my parents tonight? They listened to you. They admired you. She shook her head. They admired a version of me that was edited, polished. No, he said again. They admired your honesty, your fire, your refusal to shrink. Maya looked away, her throat tightening. I don't want to fall for someone because of a performance, she said. Not again. He stepped closer. Then don't perform. Their eyes locked in the dark, and in that silence, thick with things unsaid, something passed between them. Not a declaration, but a shift. And just when Maya thought he might reach for her, just when the space between them felt charged with something fragile, a flash went off. A camera. Maya jerked her head toward the hedge. A man with a long lens camera ducked and disappeared into the shadows. Logan's jaw clenched. Paparazzi. No, Maya whispered, cold dread rushing over her. That wasn't paparazzi. What do you mean? She swallowed hard. I've seen that man before, at the market, watching me. Who the hell would... Her voice came out thin. Sabrina. Logan's eyes narrowed. She wouldn't dare. She would, and she already has. A sudden chill settled over Maya, not from the night air, but from the knowledge that this wasn't just a harmless lie anymore. Someone was digging, and if they reached the roots, if they exposed everything, it wouldn't just be her heart at risk. It would be her sister, her livelihood, her future. She looked at Logan, her voice barely audible. She's not done. And deep down, neither was Maya. The chandeliers shimmered like frozen stars as the evening reached its peak. Guests moved gracefully across the ballroom, their laughter a polished soundtrack of champagne and secrets. Maya stood near the edge of the room, her posture composed, though her thoughts ran like wildfire beneath her skin. Logan had returned to her side, but something had shifted since the incident on the veranda. They hadn't spoken much since the flash of that camera. Since her whisper, "She's not done." He had asked questions. She had dodged them, not out of deception, but out of instinct. Protection. Fear. Now the orchestra paused, and the crowd's low murmur faded as Charles Carter stepped onto the small platform in front of the grand staircase. A single spotlight followed him. Lorraine joined him silently, resting a hand on his arm, her expression unreadable. Logan straightened beside Maya. "This isn't on the schedule." Maya frowned. "What's he doing?" "I don't know." Charles raised a hand. The room obeyed. "Good evening, everyone," he began, his voice like velvet iron. "Thank you all for being here tonight. It means a great deal to my family and to me." The crowd offered a brief round of applause before settling again. "I had planned to keep tonight focused on business," Charles continued, "on numbers and forecasts and the future of Carter Enterprises. But some things cannot wait for board meetings or quarterly reports." Maya's heart skipped. A ripple of unease swept over her. She could feel it. Something was coming. Charles turned his gaze toward Logan, then slowly to her. "In this world, it's easy to measure success by the size of your portfolio or the weight of your last acquisition. But legacy is not built on profits. It's built on people. Maya felt the blood rush to her ears. She barely heard the rest. "I've always hoped my son would find someone who not only challenged him, but grounded him. Someone who reminded him of who we were before the towers and the titles. And tonight, I believe, he has." Whispers spread through the room like a growing fire. Charles gestured toward Maya, the light catching her eyes. "I'd like to raise a toast to Maya Thompson, the woman who, I'm proud to announce, will be joining us at the Carter Foundation's annual gala next month as my son's fiancée." Maya froze. The applause was thunderous, but it sounded like static. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The room spun gently, like a carousel tipped off its axis. Logan's face said it all. He hadn't known. His jaw clenched. His hand found her back, gently grounding. "Maya," he whispered. "I swear, I didn't know he would say that." She nodded faintly, still stunned, her fingers cold around her glass. Sabrina stood a few feet away, eyes wide, shocked but already calculating. The crowd erupted in clinking glasses and cameras. Lorraine smiled politely, though Maya caught the flicker of something behind her composed mask. Surprise, and something softer. Approval, maybe. Logan leaned in, voice low and urgent. "I'll talk to him, we'll fix this, you don't have to do anything." Maya finally looked at him. "You think I'm worried about a speech?" she said quietly. "Then what?" She shook her head slowly, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm worried about what comes after, what people will expect now, what they'll dig for." He looked down, guilt pulling at his brow. "We'll figure it out, together." But she wasn't sure they had that kind of time anymore. Later that night, after most guests had left and the music had faded into soft echoes, Maya stood in the grand hallway near the front door. Her shoes were off, her hair was slightly undone, and her soul was heavier than when she arrived. Lorraine approached quietly. "You handled yourself with grace tonight," she said gently. Maya offered a tight smile. "I wasn't expecting a spotlight. No one really is." There was a pause. Then Lorraine added, "Charles doesn't do things impulsively. If he said what he said, it's because he sees something." "In me?" Maya asked, surprised. "In what you bring out in Logan?" That silenced Maya for a moment. "Mrs. Carter," she said softly, "I didn't come here to manipulate anyone. This was never real. At least it wasn't supposed to be." Lorraine nodded slowly. "And yet, real things are often born in unexpected places. Don't let the way it started convince you it can't mean something." Maya looked down, her throat tightening. "How did you do it?" she asked suddenly. "Marry into this world and survive it?" Lorraine tilted her head, a rare vulnerability flashing in her eyes. "By remembering who I was before it." Their eyes met in quiet understanding. When Maya stepped outside into the night air, Logan was waiting by the car. He looked exhausted and nervous. "You don't have to say anything," he said as she approached. "I'll call him first thing tomorrow. We'll undo it." Maya climbed into the car without answering. He followed. The silence between them wasn't cold, it was thick, alive. Then as the car pulled away from the estate, Maya finally broke it. "2 more weeks," she said. Logan turned. "What?" "I'll stay," she said, "until the gala." His breath caught. "You don't have to, I know." He studied her face, trying to understand. "Why?" She hesitated. Then finally, "Because I need the money." He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll double it." She looked away. "That's not what I meant." "Then why?" Her voice was softer now. "Because I want to see where this goes. I just need to know I can walk away if it turns into another lie." He exhaled through his nose, nodding. "You can." The car rolled into the city, lights blurring past their windows like stars in motion. Logan reached for her hand, gently. No pressure, just presence. This time she didn't pull away, but she didn't hold it either. Not yet. The days that followed were quieter, but something was shifting beneath the surface, like a current gently eroding the shore. Maya's world, once simple and rhythmic, began to change shape. Each morning now started with a sleek black car waiting outside her apartment. Each afternoon included a different lesson. Etiquette, posture, ballroom dancing. And each evening brought Logan, not always with words. Sometimes just with his presence, sometimes just with silence that didn't feel empty. She'd expected the rehearsals, the performance. What she hadn't expected was the warmth behind it all. On the fourth day, Logan showed up at her apartment early, holding a brown paper bag. Maya raised an eyebrow. "You brought food?" "Technically, your kind of food," he said. "I stopped by the market. Don't ask how many people stared at me while I picked apples." She laughed, taking the bag from his hands. "Let me guess, you squeezed every one of them." "I may have traumatized a vendor," he said, stepping inside. "I don't think I'm welcome back." She set the bag on the counter and pulled out 2 sandwiches, a small container of soup and a paper-wrapped brownie. It wasn't gourmet, but it smelled like home. "Why are you really here, Logan?" she asked as she poured soup into 2 chipped bowls. He leaned on the doorframe. "I wanted to see where you live." She looked around at her modest space. Tiny kitchen, second-hand sofa, a window with a half-broken blind and 2 potted herbs struggling to survive on the sill. "It's nothing special," she said. "It's honest," he replied. "And warm." She handed him a bowl. "It's a tight squeeze. Don't touch the heater or you'll regret it." They sat on the floor with their backs to the couch, bowls in their laps. Maya turned on an old radio in the corner, and the room filled with soft jazz, slightly fuzzy from the static. "This is nice," he said quietly. She glanced over at him. "You don't have to pretend here." "I'm not," he replied. "Not anymore." Later that week, Maya was at her dance lesson when Logan showed up unannounced. The studio smelled of wood polish and fresh roses. A violin hummed low from a speaker in the corner. "Step back, then turn," the instructor said. "No, relax your shoulders." Maya tried again. She'd never worn heels like those. She stumbled. Logan caught her before she fell. Their eyes met, breathless. "I'm fine," she said, pulling away gently. "You're not supposed to be perfect," he said. "Just real. You don't know how many people in my life have wanted the opposite." Logan offered his hand. "May I?" The instructor stepped back, quietly amused. They moved together, awkward at first. Maya's feet stumbled over his once, then again. "Sorry," she muttered. "Don't be," he said. "Keep looking at me." She did. His hand on her back was warm. His other held hers like something rare. Their steps found rhythm. Their breathing slowed. The music wrapped around them like a secret. When the song ended, neither moved. On Sunday, Maya invited him to lunch, not to a restaurant, not to impress him, to her home, with Lena. Logan arrived holding flowers and 3 takeout drinks from a corner cafe. Lena, sharp-eyed and suspicious by nature, sat across the table with her arms crossed. "So," she said, chewing slowly, "you're the rich guy pretending to be my sister's fiancé." "Not pretending anymore," Logan said gently, "though we're still figuring out what that means." Maya gave him a warning glance. Lena raised an eyebrow. "Do you always buy love with money?" He didn't flinch. "No. I usually ruin it that way." Maya's eyes snapped to him. Lena studied him for a moment. Then she shrugged. "At least you're honest." The 3 of them ate fried chicken and mashed potatoes. Maya talked about her childhood, and Logan listened like each detail mattered. He told stories about boarding school pranks and vacations that felt like cages. Lena laughed harder than Maya had heard in months. After lunch, Logan offered to wash the dishes. Maya joined him at the sink. "You're full of surprises," she said. "So are you," he replied, handing her a wet plate. Their fingers brushed. And for a second, it felt like something broke open inside them both. The night before her gala dress fitting, Maya sat on the couch, looking through a box of old photos. Logan sat beside her. She pulled out a picture of her parents, holding a baby Lena between them. "They were so in love," she whispered, "even when things were hard." He looked at the photo. "They look strong." They were. He picked up another picture, Maya at 17, holding Lena's hand in front of the fruit stand. "You raised her," Maya nodded. "I didn't have a choice." "You did," he said, "and you chose her." She blinked, startled by the tenderness in his voice. "I always told myself I'd never depend on anyone," she said quietly. "And now? I still don't know if I can." Logan didn't try to convince her. He just reached over and gently took her hand. By the end of the second week, something unspoken had rooted between them. It wasn't the performance, it wasn't the contract. It was in the way he looked for her in a room, the way she leaned slightly toward him when he laughed, the way they didn't rush through silences anymore. It was growing, slowly, dangerously, and neither of them knew what would happen when the clock ran out. That night, as Maya lay in bed, the memory of Logan's hand brushing her hair back replayed over and over. It wasn't romantic. Not exactly. It wasn't even planned. It was quiet, human. And it made her wonder, what if something real could grow from something that never was? What if the line between truth and pretend had already vanished, without either of them noticing? Maya used to believe that feelings came like storms, loud, wild, impossible to ignore. But falling for Logan Carter wasn't like thunder. It was like waking up in a house that wasn't hers and realizing she'd been living in it all along. She tried to convince herself that everything was still a transaction. She repeated the lie every morning. This is temporary. Every time he looked at her too long, every time his hand brushed hers like an accident and stayed a second longer than necessary. But lies don't work well on hearts that are already halfway open. She stood in front of the mirror at the boutique, wearing a pale blue gown made of silk and light. The dress draped over her shoulders like a secret, the kind no one was supposed to see. She didn't recognize herself. Her reflection looked soft, beautiful, maybe even wanted. Logan sat nearby, silent, his eyes fixed on her with a focus that made her skin burn. "Well?" she asked, keeping her tone casual. He stood slowly. His voice was low. "You don't look like someone trying to fit in." She raised an eyebrow. "No." He took another step closer. "You look like someone who belongs, and always did." She turned back to the mirror, breaking the tension with a quiet laugh. "You're good at this." "At what?" "Making someone forget it's all pretend." Logan's voice dropped even further. "I'm not pretending anymore." Maya felt her chest tighten. This had to stop. She skipped the next etiquette lesson and went back to the market, back to where things smelled like tomatoes and basil, not perfume and ambition, where she didn't need to wear heels to feel tall. She wiped down the wooden crates with practiced hands, trying to silence the echo of Logan's words in her head. But it didn't work, because Logan had started to exist in places he wasn't supposed to. In her mornings, in her thoughts, in the way she touched her lips when she caught herself smiling for no reason. "You okay?" asked Mrs. Reynolds from the flower stall next door. "Just tired," Maya lied. She turned her back to hide her face, because even a half-truth felt too close to being seen. That night, Logan called. She let it ring 4 times before answering. "I wasn't sure you'd pick up," he said. "I almost didn't." There was a long pause. "I missed you today," he said. "You say that like it means something." "It does." Silence. "Maya," he whispered, "tell me what's going on." She pressed her forehead against the window, watching rain streak the glass. "I'm losing control of something I never meant to hold." "Maya, this wasn't supposed to happen," she said. "I wasn't supposed to care." "I know, but I do," she admitted quietly, "and it terrifies me." She started pulling away, not with words, but with space. She answered texts a little later, cancelled one of their lunches, took longer to respond when he looked at her like she was a mystery he wanted to solve. Logan noticed. He didn't chase, but he didn't stop watching either. There was a sadness in his silence, a quiet ache. He gave her room, but the distance didn't feel like freedom. It felt like both of them trying not to fall through the same door. One afternoon, Lena confronted her in the kitchen. "Are you in love with him?" she asked. Maya froze. "It's not like that." "I didn't ask what it was like," Lena said. "I asked if you are." Maya looked down at her hands. "It doesn't matter." "Of course it does." "No," she said, firmer now. "Because it won't last." Lena softened. "You don't know that." "I do. I've lived enough to know that love doesn't survive in unequal places. And what if it's not unequal anymore?" Maya looked at her. "It always will be. Look at him. Look at me." Lena reached out, gently touching her sister's hand. He looks at you like he's found the only person who sees him. Maya's voice cracked. I can't afford to believe in that. That evening, Logan arrived at her door. He didn't call, he didn't text. He just showed up with 2 containers of takeout and a bottle of soda. She opened the door in a loose t-shirt and socks, hair tied back. He held up the bag. Thought I'd bring dinner. She stepped aside, saying nothing. They sat on the couch and ate quietly. No candles, no music, just the sound of their forks and the soft ticking of the wall clock. Halfway through the meal, Maya put her food down. I've been pulling away, she said. Logan looked at her. I know. I thought if I stayed close, I'd lose myself. He didn't respond. I'm scared of this, she admitted. This? You. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Do you think I'm not scared too? She blinked. Logan's voice was low, honest. You've seen who I am outside the suits. You've been in my house, you've met my family, and I still don't know if I'm enough for someone like you. Maya's throat tightened. You're a Carter. I'm also a man who doesn't want to lie anymore. He looked at her then. Really looked. Not to myself, and definitely not to you. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall all the way. But something in her still whispered, you're not safe here. This world isn't yours. It's borrowed. It will end. She looked away, afraid that if she didn't, she'd let herself lean in. He didn't move, he just waited. And for the first time in her life, Maya realized, maybe love wasn't about being fearless. Maybe it was about staying, even when fear wrapped its fingers around your ribs. The next morning, Sabrina sent a message, just a photo. Maya's face, Logan's hand on her back, the 2 of them on the dance floor. Below it, a single line. You think you're safe. You're not even invisible. Maya stared at the screen. She knew what this was. A warning and maybe a promise. The illusion was cracking, and the truth was coming. The message haunted her, not because it was unexpected, but because it confirmed what Maya had feared all along. She was being watched. The next day, she found a white envelope shoved beneath her apartment door. No return address, just her name, Maya, typed in small, bold letters. Inside were photographs, crisp, high resolution, private. One of her counting cash at the market, one walking with Logan outside his office, another of them holding hands during the dance lesson, then one with her head on his shoulder in the car, and finally, a copy of the contract she'd signed, the original agreement. Maya's hands trembled. At the bottom of the stack, a single note typed in the same font, you end it, tonight, or the truth ends you. She didn't need a signature. The stench of perfume clung to the paper. By noon, she received the second blow. A man approached her stand at the market, tall, clean-cut, with sharp eyes and a polite smile that didn't reach his gaze. Ms. Thompson, he asked. Yes, I represent the firm hired to verify public records for an upcoming article. Would you mind answering a few questions about your relationship with Logan Carter? She stared at him, her blood going cold. What article? I'm not at liberty to say just yet. Her jaw tightened. Then I'm not at liberty to answer. He nodded. Understood. But you should know, stories without comment have a way of shaping themselves. He walked off without another word. That night, Maya stood in front of the mirror, holding her phone in both hands, staring at Logan's name on the screen. She didn't want to call him. She didn't want to lie. But she had to. For Lena. For the stand. For everything she had left. She pressed dial. Logan picked up immediately. Hey. His voice was soft, hopeful. Can we talk? She said. In person. Of course. My place or yours? Mine. He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his dress shirt and slacks, sleeves rolled to his elbows. His eyes lit up the moment he saw her, until he registered her expression. Maya didn't smile. She stepped aside and let him in. She'd already removed the framed photos from the shelf, already packed Lena's medical books in boxes, already prepared her heart for what she was about to do. Logan sat on the couch. She didn't. She stood in front of him. This has to end, she said. He blinked. What? This. Us. The lie. Everything. He rose slowly. Maya, where is this coming from? I can't do it anymore, she said, ignoring the pain in her throat. I can't keep pretending. Who said you were pretending? His voice cracked. She looked away. I never belonged in your world, Logan. I thought I could play the role, but I'm tired. That's not the reason. It's my reason. No. He stepped forward. It's not. She backed away. It don't. Tell me what's really happening. She bit her lip hard. I'm done, she said flatly, and if you care at all, you'll let me go. Logan stared at her, stunned. Just like that? It was never real. He shook his head. You don't mean that. I do. Look me in the eyes and say it. She did, and it broke something in both of them. He stepped back, jaw clenched, eyes burning. I thought what we had was different. She swallowed. So did I. He left without another word. As the door clicked shut behind him, Maya fell to the floor and sobbed into her knees. She hadn't lied to protect herself. She had lied to save him. The next morning, Sabrina sent another message. A single line. Good girl. Maya spent the following days in silence. Lena noticed immediately. You broke up with him? She asked, pacing the kitchen. Just like that. It was for the best. For who? Maya didn't answer. Lena frowned. You're not eating. You're barely sleeping. What did she do to you? Maya's hands trembled as she washed a dish. Nothing I can't survive. Lena moved closer. That's not strength, Maya. That's silence. And I don't think it's protecting anyone anymore. On the third night, Maya sat in bed with the envelope open beside her. She stared at the contract, at her own signature, at the tiny print that bound her. Then her eyes found the clause she hadn't noticed before. Public exposure. If the story leaked, it wouldn't just damage Logan, it would ruin her. And worse, it would humiliate Lena, discredit the stand, erase everything they'd built together in one tabloid headline. She couldn't let that happen, but she also couldn't keep running. The next morning, a knock came at her door. Maya opened it, expecting a neighbor. It was Lena, with Logan. And Maya's heart dropped. She hadn't expected to see him again. Not like that. Not standing in the doorway of her apartment with Lena beside him, his jaw tight and his eyes darker than she'd ever seen. Maya, he said. She froze. Lena stepped forward, her tone firm. Tell him. Maya glanced at her sister, pleading silently. But Lena didn't flinch. Maya, he deserves to know, she said, and I'm tired of watching you hurt yourself for people who don't even see what you're doing. Logan looked between them. What's going on? Maya's throat burned. It doesn't matter anymore, she said. Logan's voice was sharp now. It does to me. Lena crossed her arms. Sabrina sent her photos, the contract. She threatened to destroy everything. Our business, my reputation, Maya's entire life, if Maya didn't walk away from you. The words dropped like thunder. Logan's eyes slowly turned back to Maya. Is that true? Maya didn't answer. She wasn't protecting herself, Lena went on. She was protecting me. She chose me over you, because she thought she had to. Silence. Painful. Cracking. Logan stepped closer to Maya. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice came out small. Because it wouldn't have changed anything. It would have changed everything. No, Logan, she whispered. It would have made it worse. She was ready to drag us through the mud. You, your family, Lena, the market. I couldn't take that chance. He looked at her for a long time. His jaw clenched, then loosened, then clenched again. For you still should have told me, he said, voice low. We could have fought this together. Maya blinked back tears. I didn't want to be another problem you had to solve. You were never a problem, he said. But I was never the plan, she whispered. Logan shook his head. You were never the plan, Maya. You were the reason the plan changed. That made her crumble. She turned away, wiping her face with the back of her hand. It's too late. No, he said. It's not. She faced him again, her eyes red, her chest heaving. You don't get it, she said. If this goes public, everything I've worked for burns, Lena's residency, our credibility, my future. I've spent my life building something from nothing, Logan. I can't let it fall apart, even if it means losing you." His voice cracked. "I don't want to be something you lose." "You already are." That silence again. This time it suffocated. Lena backed away, tears in her eyes. She turned and left, closing the door behind her, giving them one final moment. Logan stepped closer, one last time. His hand hovered near hers, but he didn't reach for it, not this time. Instead, his voice dropped to a whisper. "I would have chosen you, even if it cost me everything." Maya didn't look up. "I know." He lingered for a second, then another. Then he walked away. That night, Maya stood alone in her apartment. She didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, because it did, more than she thought possible. But because she was past the breaking, past the pleading. She had sacrificed love to protect the pieces of her life still standing, and no one would ever know how much it cost her. 2 days later, the story broke. A blog post, anonymous sources, photos blurred just enough to be legal, phrases like fake engagement, undisclosed contract, fruit vendor turned social climber. The damage was smaller than Maya feared, but enough to sting. The market lost customers for a week. Lena received questions at the hospital she wasn't prepared to answer, but they survived. The stand reopened. People came back. Maya showed up each morning as if nothing had changed, as if her heart hadn't been quietly buried beneath the fruit crates and handwritten chalk signs. Then, a week after the article, Maya received a letter. No envelope, no sender. Just her name written carefully on folded parchment. Inside, "I fixed it, she won't touch you again, CC Charles Carter." The next day, Sabrina disappeared from the social circuit. No press appearances, no interviews. Her father quietly pulled out of Carter Enterprises. No one spoke of it aloud, but everyone knew something had happened behind closed doors. Maya never asked what. She didn't need to. The silence was louder than any scandal. One night, Maya came home to find Lena sitting on the floor with an open notebook and their old ledger spread out. "I think it's time we expand," Lena said. Maya blinked. "What?" "Brook Hill's been good to us, but maybe it's time we take it further, a second stand. Community programs, nutrition workshops, all the things you used to dream about." Maya sat beside her. "Why now?" Lena smiled. "Because if you're going to lose someone that important, at least make it mean something." Maya didn't respond. She just nodded. And for the first time in weeks, allowed herself to breathe, even if it still hurt. Even if a part of her still waited for a knock that would never come. The ballroom gleamed like a dream too polished to touch. Strings of golden lights hung from the ceiling like falling stars, and laughter echoed off the marble columns like applause on a stage. The Carter Foundation's annual gala was the event of the season, every year. But this time something was different. The guest list was tighter, the media presence heavier, and for the first time in 2 weeks, Logan stood in the middle of it all, completely alone. No Maya by his side, no hand in his, no soft glance across the room, just cameras, questions, silence. He wore the suit she once said made him look less Carter, more human. But tonight, he felt like neither. Charles watched his son from a distance, his fingers tapping the rim of his glass. Lorraine stood beside him, elegant as always, though her eyes scanned the crowd with quiet concern. "She's not coming," Logan finally said. Charles didn't look at him. "She was never required to. I wanted her to." "I know." Another silence. Then Charles handed him a folded note. "She sent this." Logan opened it. Inside, just one line. "Good men don't break promises. Great men keep them, even when love feels impossible. M." His chest tightened. Before he could speak, the MC's voice echoed through the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Tonight we celebrate not just legacy but impact and the people behind the mission. Please welcome Charles Carter to the stage." Applause. Logan stood frozen as his father stepped forward, gripping the microphone with calm authority. But Charles didn't begin with numbers or projections. He began with a name. Maya Thompson. The room stilled. She's not here tonight. But perhaps she should be. Because this past year she taught me more about legacy than any report ever has. Gasps, whispers, a few exchanged glances. She reminded us, Charles continued, that truth is louder than wealth, that strength is quieter than power, that authenticity, real, sometimes messy authenticity, is worth protecting. Sabrina stood near the back of the room, her spine stiffening. She didn't ask to be part of this world. She didn't claw her way in or scheme her way up. She was invited, and still she was the one who paid the highest price. Logan's throat tightened. This family, Charles said, has made mistakes. So has this company. But if tonight is about impact, then let me be clear. No donation has moved me more than the courage of a girl who walked away from love to protect everything she believed in. Silence. Then, a voice rang out from the side of the ballroom. You should know the whole story. All heads turned. Lena. She stepped onto the small stage beside Charles, holding a small file in her hands. She was nervous but steady. I wasn't going to speak, she said, but Maya doesn't know I'm here, and honestly, she probably wouldn't let me if she did. Whispers rippled across the crowd. She signed that contract to help me, Lena continued, to keep me in medical school, to keep our family business afloat. When she agreed to pretend to be Logan's fiancée, it wasn't for fame or money. It was for survival. People leaned in now, some shocked, others curious. She didn't blackmail anyone. She didn't chase cameras. She refused to take more than what she needed. And when someone tried to ruin her, she walked away. Not because she wasn't in love, but because she was. Gasps. Logan's heart cracked open in front of 100 strangers. I'm the one who begged her to take that deal, Lena said, her voice trembling now. I'm the reason she accepted it. And I'm the one who finally realized love shouldn't cost someone everything. She turned to Charles, then to the audience. I know it's not usual for the Carter Foundation to support vendors from street markets, but I hope it starts today. I hope you see what I see. Because if legacy means anything, it should mean lifting people like my sister, not pushing them out of the frame. The room was still. Then came applause, first scattered, then rising, then thunderous. Logan left the gala before dessert was served. He didn't wait for interviews, didn't wait for the cameras. He ran, through the lobby, down the marble steps into the street. He didn't call the driver, didn't text, didn't think. He just moved, as if his body had known all along where to go. Maya stood behind the stall at Brookhill Market, restocking peaches under the quiet glow of the streetlight. The air was cool, the sky half dreaming, and the world finally felt still. She heard the footsteps before she turned, and when she did, her heart stopped. Logan, out of breath, out of words. Maya, he said. She froze. What are you doing here? I should have come sooner. She looked away. It doesn't matter. It does. He stepped closer. I heard everything, he said. The speech. Lena. Your name. Maya stayed silent. I thought you left because you didn't love me, he said. But you left because you did. She closed her eyes. I would have fought for you, Maya, he whispered. I still will. Her voice cracked. You don't have to fix this. I'm not trying to fix it. He paused. I'm trying to ask if you still believe in us. The silence between them was fragile. Then, a slow exhale, a tear, a step forward. Maya's voice came, quiet, but true. I never stopped. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The night wrapped around them, quiet and soft, like a secret. The market stood empty behind Maya, the fruit crates half covered for the next morning. The scent of ripe peaches lingered in the air, mixed with the faint hum of city traffic in the distance. Logan's chest rose and fell slowly. Maya stood still, her arms wrapped around herself, not out of cold but protection. From him, from herself. He took another step forward. You said you never stopped believing, he murmured. Then let's stop pretending we don't belong to this. She didn't look up. What if the world still wants to tear it apart? Let it try, he said. It won't get past us. Her eyes finally lifted to his, and what he saw there wasn't anger or fear. It was longing. and the fragile hope of someone who still wasn't sure she was allowed to be loved for real. They walked, not far, just through the quiet streets of Brookhill, past the bakeries with their metal grates pulled down, past the flower stand Maya used to visit with her mother, past the place where Logan had first knelt in the rain, desperate and foolish and a little bit lost. He remembered that moment now like a different life. Back then, he was asking for 5 minutes. Now, he wanted forever. They reached the tiny playground by the corner, the one with the broken swing Maya used to push Lena on when she was little. They sat side by side on the low bench, their knees almost touching. "I tried to forget you," Maya whispered. "I know, but you kept showing up. In my thoughts, in my chest, in places you weren't even supposed to reach." He smiled gently. "I've been in the same war." She looked at him, her voice barely audible. "It hurt." He nodded. "It should. That's how you know it's real." After a moment, Logan reached into the inner pocket of his coat. Not for a ring, for something wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. He handed it to her, quiet. Maya opened it slowly. Inside was a folded receipt from the fruit stand. The first one. The one from the day they met. On the back, written in Logan's handwriting, "You made me believe in something I thought I lost." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. "You kept this. I keep a lot of things that matter." He took a deep breath. Then gently, almost reverently, he knelt in front of her. Not because it was expected, not because it would look good on a headline, but because everything in him said this was where he was meant to be. "Maya Thompson," he began, his voice full but shaking slightly, "you changed my life by accident. You healed parts of me no one ever saw. And you showed me that love doesn't need chandeliers or contracts. It just needs two people who are brave enough to stand in front of each other and say yes." She covered her mouth, breath caught. "I'm not asking for 5 minutes," he said. "I'm asking for forever. Not perfect, just honest, just us." Then he opened the small box he'd pulled from his pocket. Inside wasn't a diamond. It was a silver band with a peach blossom etched into it. Her favorite flower, her mother's favorite too. Maya's hands trembled. He smiled. "Will you marry me?" She couldn't speak at first. The tears came first. Hot, overwhelming, unstoppable. Then the laughter, soft, almost disbelieving. Then, the word that had lived in her chest since the day he first looked at her like she was more than a lie. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, richer. "Yes, Logan, I will." They didn't kiss like in movies. They leaned into each other slowly, forehead to forehead, tears mixing with laughter, their hands trembling as they held on. The kiss came like breath after drowning, slow, deep, grateful. There was no orchestra, just the wind through the branches and the quiet thud of her heart against his. Later that night, they returned to the market. It was closed, but Logan reached into his pocket, pulled out a small flashlight, and held it up to the chalkboard sign. In careful letters he wrote, "Closed until further notice, we're getting married." Maya laughed, shaking her head, but didn't stop him. When he was done, she reached up and added in smaller handwriting beneath it, "For real this time." The smell of fresh peaches filled the air again. It wasn't just summer returning to Brookhill, it was something deeper, like a promise kept, like life beginning in the exact place where it had once tried to fall apart. The market was closed that day, but it had never been so alive. Burlap banners hung between stalls, strings of warm lights crisscrossed the open space, buckets of wildflowers replaced price tags, and every table overflowed, not with goods, but with stories, familiar faces, tears, laughter. It wasn't the kind of wedding that made magazine covers. It was the kind of wedding people remembered forever. Maya stood behind the old fruit stand, now covered in soft white linen. Her gown wasn't designer. It was sewn by Mrs. Kim from down the block, with lace borrowed from an heirloom and buttons that didn't quite match. But somehow it was perfect. She wore no veil, just a crown of peach blossoms and her mother's old bracelet. Her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted a loose curl behind her ear. She wasn't nervous. She was present, awake, every cell in her body, alive with memory and meaning. Lena appeared beside her, eyes already glistening. "He's waiting," she whispered. Maya smiled. I know. Logan stood under the same wooden awning, where he'd once begged for 5 minutes of her time. His suit was crisp, but his shoes were covered in dust, intentionally. He'd helped set up the crates that morning, alongside the vendors who now called him by name. He didn't look like a millionaire. He looked like a man who had finally arrived. Charles and Lorraine stood near the front. Lorraine wiped her eyes discreetly as a quiet melody began to float through the market. Not orchestral, not classical. A soft jazz tune played live by a neighborhood trio, simple, real, like them. When Maya appeared, silence swept over the crowd like a breeze. She walked down the center aisle between crates of lemons and baskets of herbs. Children waved small ribbons. The butcher's wife blew her a kiss. A teenage boy from the bakery handed her a flower. Logan's breath caught in his throat. She looked like sunlight, like something he'd spent his whole life chasing without even knowing it. When she reached him, he didn't speak. He just took her hand, kissed her fingers, and held on like the world might fall apart if he let go. The officiant spoke, but no one really remembered the words. What everyone remembered was the way they looked at each other. How Maya's voice shook when she said, I promise not to run even when I'm scared. How Logan whispered, you were never just a chapter. You were the rewrite. How the kiss that followed wasn't a performance. It was home. Afterward, there was no ballroom, no champagne tower, just food from every corner of the market, music that made people dance in their socks, speeches that came from the heart, and moments that couldn't be captured by any lens, only felt. Charles gave a toast that surprised everyone. When Logan was born, he said, I thought legacy meant numbers. Then Maya reminded me that the most valuable things in this world can't be counted. Lorraine raised her glass. To the girl who made us remember who we are. As night fell, the market glowed with a kind of light that didn't come from bulbs. It came from healing, from community, from love that had been tested and chosen again. Maya sat with Lena on a crate, watching Logan dance with a group of children near the flower stand. He's terrible at that, Maya laughed. Lena grinned. He's trying. Maya rested her head on her sister's shoulder. We both are. You're doing more than trying, Lena whispered. You made it. Later, Logan found her alone at the fruit stand, gazing up at the chalkboard sign. Without a word, he handed her a piece of chalk. She smiled, then wrote in soft letters, Now open for love. He kissed her temple. What comes next? Maya turned to him, eyes sparkling. Everything. Maya didn't gain a castle. She built a home, where love wasn't perfect, but it was real. Where two worlds met without needing to erase each other. Because in the end, it wasn't the money that changed her story. It was the courage to stay, even when it would have been easier to run. And maybe this story also speaks of you. Who would you be if you let love find you exactly where you are? If this story touched you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, where are you listening to this message from? Your support is what keeps this channel alive.